Ppl Live coming to you with our Week 7 edition. Week 6 is in the books. We're heading into Week 7, getting to the midway point of the season, and we are also midway through interconference warfare. Now, Gino the Gent is here to give you guys a Week 6 recap and get us into the Week 7 action. Week 6 scores: the Argonauts defeat Patty's Twins in a house-divided matchup as the Argos score 186-95. Only for the Boss roars back on Sunday night behind Patrick Mahomes as they score 125 to appease the gods 77. The Baby Gas team makes it 2 in a row, defeating the hapless Comeback Kids 134-78. The Mean Machine gets a huge win without his Twin Saints, putting up a solid 132 to defeat the United Players 113. And Squad underestimated falls in the prestige matchup of the week after a huge start from Saquon Barkley. Todd Gurley and the Gaff get it done, putting up a season high 204 points, only the third team to do so in PPL history. And from that matchup, congratulations to our Leave No Doubt Player of the Week, Todd Gurley. The man has been a man on fire. 208 yards rushing, 17 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns to go along with a huge game to lead the Gaff with a Leave No Doubt performance and a record-setting performance for their franchise. Segueing us into our Week 7 matchups, starting with the Gaff Attack taking on Only for the Boss. Alrighty, this matchup is one that should probably get pretty high scoring. This one has the highest scoring combined projection of the week. We got Patrick Mahomes, Todd Gurley, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, a who's who of top talent of 2018. Looking at it from the Boss's side, they had a huge explosion to get the win against Appease the Gods last week. Of course, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill did the lion's share of the damage and were able to get the Boss back into the matchup and get the win. That's of no surprise at all. Stephon Diggs actually is probably due for a big bounce back game, being that he was virtually ignored in the passing game last week for Adam Thielen. I think Diggs bounces back, and I think that he's going to make a big difference in this game. Now, the matchup is pretty much going to come down to the Sunday night matchup for the Boss again, the Cincinnati defense going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs this time are the home team, so that's a nice little boost for them, and that's going to be a big part of this matchup. The Boss looks like he's going to go all Chiefs across the board, with even Sammy Watkins occupying the flex. So more big chiefing from the Boss, and it's a good matchup for the Boss, so I think that they're in good shape, especially in a matchup against the number 2 scoring team in the league, the Gaff. The Gaff Attack has been awesome this year. Todd Gurley is a huge part of that, running for 200 yards, a career high for him against that Denver Bronco defense. Todd was extremely impressive, hitting those holes, finding those lanes, and cutting runs out to the outside. Gurley's just a man apart, and he's really separating himself from pretty much every other player in the league right now. For DeAndre Hopkins, another solid outing for him. This time he bioed his production with a touchdown catch. Despite the Texans' struggle throughout the game, Hopkins continues to do extremely well. He's a top 5 wide receiver. Brandon Cooks looks like he's going to get back into the lineup this week. He did play last week, but didn't do much. I expect him to have a big game against that San Francisco secondary, especially with no Cooper Kupp out there. Cooks should be ready to eat. Zach Ertz is another guy who's going to eat all day and get his. And then Harrison Butker, that's a big key for the Gaff, that he's going to get a little bit of those chief points, which is a big thing when you play the Boss. This matchup sets up as a very interesting one. This is one that is probably the most interesting of the weekend. And I'm gonna call the upset. I got Only for the Boss winning this matchup 130-122. I think the Gaff streak gets broken by a huge day from the Kansas City Chiefs and Stephon Diggs. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Big C's Comeback Kids taking on the Mean Machine. Alrighty, the Big C's Comeback Kids and the Mean Machine. Two teams are obviously going in opposite directions. The 4-2 Mean Machine looks really, really good. They were able to manufacture points without their two of their top scorers. And you got to give props to the Machine. They're always in the thick of things. And they're always making pretty solid decisions that work out for them. This week, Odell Beckham Jr. should be due for a bounce back. That Atlanta secondary is one of the worst in the league. Keanu Neal is out for the season, so I expect Beckham to be able to get deep, and I expect that game to be pretty high scoring. For Kareem Hunt, he's really been the reason why the Machine was able to keep everything going well. He had a huge touchdown catch that was just beautiful, and then he also ran for a touchdown against the Patriots, scoring 30 points. So Kareem is finally getting into his groove, and he's becoming. Well, he's not that he wasn't before, but he's getting back to being a huge part of that offense. He was being phased out, it seemed like, at one point, but it looks like now they're going to lean on Kareem Hunt even more. And I think he's going to be a big part of this win. Obviously, Kamara and Michael Thomas come back, but they're on the road against Baltimore. That is a tougher matchup for them. Not that they can't have a huge game, but I think expectations should be tempered in that one. Now, on the Comeback Kids side, it's been a very, very rough season for them. They got off to such a great start last Thursday night thanks to their Eagles coach, kicker, and Alshon Jeffrey, that it appeared that they were on their way to their second win of the season. It just unfortunately didn't work out for them. This week, it looks like they're gonna start playing the matchups. I've been waiting for them to do this for the last couple of weeks, but it looks like they finally are going to go after it. It looks like they're going to go with Joe Flacco against the New Orleans defense, which is a matchup play. Chris Thompson against Dallas is another matchup play, a great matchup play, but a matchup play nonetheless. And then Jarvis Landry against the worst secondary in the league. There's reasons to like the Comeback Kids here, but I think the Mean Machine is the stronger team on paper, and in reality, they've been able to get more done. And I think that they're going to get this win. I've got the Mean Machine winning this matchup 121 to 115. Okay, I think the Comeback Kids make it interesting, but it's just not going to be enough. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Appease the Gods taking on the Baby Gas team. Alrighty, the BGT has now made it 2 in a row. It looks like they're on their way to, making 2018 a season that hasn't been lost yet. Matt Ryan has been spectacular. Statistically wise, he's the number 2 quarterback in the PPL, only behind Patrick Mahomes. And the BGT looks like they're going to stick with their guy despite having a plethora of options at the quarterback position. I'm looking at guys like Cam Newton and Russell Wilson, but they're not equaling the weekly production that Matt Ryan's giving you, especially on a Monday night. The BGT looks like they're in good position already. Head-scratching decisions. Dalvin Cook and T.Y. Hilton, both guys who were late scratches Sunday, both ended up in the lineup, and the BGT still won. That's the potential that this team has. Even on a week where they don't start the right people, they're still getting upwards of 120 points. They had it a few weeks ago where they left starters out, and they've been doing it pretty much all year long. So if they were to actually just really hunker down, pay attention to the Sunday lineup adjustments, the BGT is probably the most dangerous week-to-week team in the league, just because you don't know what's going to come from them. Robert Woods with Cooper Kupp gone. We've talked about this with Brandon Cooks. I think the same applies for Robert Woods against that 49er secondary. Aaron Rodgers threw for 400 yards on. I think Robert Woods is going to have another huge week. Demaryius Thomas against the Cardinals. I wouldn't sleep on him there, just because the Broncos are going to throw the ball, and even though Keenum's not very accurate, they let him chuck it around a lot, and Thomas and Sanders seem to get their numbers. They do need to make an adjustment at the Green Bay D, but then again, you never know. They might just leave that position blank. T.Y. Hilton and Cook are expected to play this week, and if they do, that just makes the BGT even more dangerous. They have one of the best kickers in Justin Tucker, and the best week in and week out coach with the New England head coach. Now on the HEG side, looks like they're starting to slide a little bit. Of course, Drew Brees does come back into the lineup this week, which is going to be huge for them. Although the game is in Baltimore, Brees is just an upgrade over Alex Smith in every way, shape, and form. So I expect Brees to get into the lineup there. I'm also looking at other players. Devin Funchess is probably a guy that's going to get some run from ATG this week. And Jordan Howard, he's really starting to struggle, and it's really hurting ATG. I think that they've got to figure something out at the running back position, maybe a trade, or try to explore different options there. Now, the Jags coach was the big bugaboo and killer for them. They gave up a 40-7 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. No one could have saw that coming. But, I mean, it is a part of the game, and it was very costly for ATG. But it looks like they were probably outmanned anyway, based on how Sunday night turned out for them. That being said, this matchup screams the Baby Gas team. And, in fact, I believe that they're the lock of the league. I've got the Baby Gas team actually winning this matchup 128 to 114. I think that ATG struggles continue, and they have to find a new way to get things done. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the United Play as the Destroyers versus the Argonauts. All right, this matchup is the league's biggest surprise against the league's most obvious team. These two teams have a long history with each other. Both teams played in the Pantheon Cup against each other a few years ago. And both teams depend on strong quarterback play to get things done. Now, on the United Players side, they have the ultimate strength in Tom Brady. Brady's been awesome. He's finally looks like he's hitting his groove. He had a pretty good game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Not spectacular, and it wasn't enough to bring the United Players back against the Mean Machine, but a solid game nonetheless. James White, we talked about him last week. I think that he's a guy that's going to continue to provide very good value for the United Players. And it looks like Leonard Fournette is going to be out another week. So that's going to really put TJ Yeldon in a prime spot against that Houston defense that is solid but not spectacular. I thought they do good against the run, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, the injury to Cooper Kupp hurts the United Players immensely. He was the number 2 receiver in fantasy, and he was a really big part of their scoring production. Now, Emmanuel Sanders does remain healthy. It looks like he's going to come right out of the gate Thursday night to fight the Argonauts. We'll see how he does. He's had a pretty good year so far, and he has a pretty good rapport with Case Keenum despite Keenum's struggles. Now, the tight end position is going to be another issue for the UP. They're going to have to figure things out with Jimmy Graham. And the Ppl situation is worth monitoring as well. Now, on the Argonauts side, the who's who showed up with the 186 week. They have a lot of players in late games. I'm looking at Julio Jones and A.J. Green, both playing Sunday and Monday night games. George Kittle did well, and it looks like Julian Edelman could play a big role in this matchup, being that he's Tom Brady's favorite receiver, and Tom Brady is on the opposition against the Argo. That being said, this matchup looks like it does set up well for the Argonauts. Of course, the United Players have to make some adjustments, but I'm going to go with the Argonauts here. I have the Argonauts winning this matchup 132 to 121. I think the Argonauts have another big scoring week. Moving on to the prestige matchup of the week, we have Patty's Twins taking on Squad Underestimated. All right, 3-3 versus 4-2. I wouldn't call this an elimination game in the PPL, but it is a game that both teams need very, very badly. I like Jared Goff against the 49ers this week. I think he's due for a very big game. We saw what Aaron Rodgers did on Sunday night. So the Twins are going to get 2 shots at that Niners defense within 6 days. Can't poo-poo that. David Johnson gets that Denver defense that just gave up 200 yards rushing. So the Twins are looking great there. And Tevin Coleman and the Twins got great news with the injury to Devonta Freeman. Coleman is the main man in that backfield. Keenan Allen and Kenny Golladay are going to have to pick up the slack for a bye week of Antonio Brown. But I like the Taylor Gabriel pickup. I think that he's a guy whose value is rising, and I think that Mitchell Trubisky really likes this guy. Now, on Squad Underestimated side, the Cousins to Thielen connection is going to continue to grow. Thielen leads the league in receptions by far and is one of the most productive receivers in pro football. Peyton Barber has done things well, and the Jags D is a great start against that Houston front. We saw how bad they look against the Bills. This matchup is a great one. I love Saquon Barkley. I thought he was going to be the Leave No Doubt player of the week this week. It just didn't work out based on how the GAF responded. But looking at this matchup, I think Squad Underestimated is the team here. I think that they need this win to keep pace in alpha. Their alpha competition is winning. So I have the Squad Underestimated winning this matchup 123 to 109. All righty. So good luck to everyone in the Prestige Jet Strip of the week. We got Squad Underestimated winning, and may the odds be ever in your favor.